Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton and welcome to my channel. The video today will be a continuation on the series of the Patriarchs, and we are on video number 10 and we're learning about Abraham. And today's video will concentrate on Genesis chapter 18 verses 2 to 8. So, what we're going to learn about today is the importance of hospitality to visitors and strangers, and also the question, who were the three angels that appeared to Abraham? So, let's continue on. And as normal, I will read the Torah verses followed by the commentary, and then if there's any added information, we'll go to the Torah anthology for some extra layers of insight. So I'll begin by reading the actual Torah verses beginning at number 2. He, meaning Abraham, he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were standing over him. He perceived, so he ran towards them from the entrance of the tent and bowed towards the ground. And he said, "My Lord, if I find favour in your eyes now, please pass not away from your servant." Now, we'll explain this a little better very soon. Verse 4 goes on and says, "Let some water be brought and wash your feet, and recline beneath the tree. I will fetch a morsel of bread that you may sustain yourselves. Then go on, inasmuch as you have passed your servant's way." They said, "Do so, just as you have said." Verse 6, "So Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah and said, 'Hurry, 3 seahs of meal, fine flour, knead and make cakes.' Then Abraham ran to the cattle, took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the youth who hurried to prepare it." Verse 8, "He took cream and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and placed these before them. He stood over them beneath the tree, and they ate." So those were the Torah verses 2 to 8. Now I'll go on with the commentary from Torah. Verse 2 commentary goes on as such. 3 men. As is apparent from the rest of the narrative, they were actually angels in guise of men. God sent 3 different angels, because by definition, an angel is a function that God wishes to have performed. Thus, each function is a new angel. And since there were 3 missions to be accomplished in connection with Abraham and Sarah at this time, there were 3 angels to carry them out. In the words of the Midrash, 1 angel does not perform 2 missions. In this case, the 3 angels were Michael, who informed Abraham that Sarah would have a son; Gabriel, who overturned Sodom; and Raphael, who healed Abraham and saved Lot. So there were the 3 angels. That was Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. The last 2 tasks, healing Abraham and saving Lot, constituted a single mission because they were for the sake of rescue. And the quote here, the verse commentary for verse 2 continues. The word is repeated because 2 things happened. First, Abraham saw them coming. Then they stopped at a distance, and he perceived that the reason they did so was to indicate that they did not wish to trouble him. In response, he ignored his pain, because bear in mind, Abraham at this point in time is still recovering from the circumcision, which, as you would understand, for a man of his age, this was a very painful process, healing process as well. So in response, he ignored his pain and dashed towards them to invite them in. Verse 3 commentary. My Lord, according to most interpretations, this word in this passage is sacred, referring to God. In taking leave from God, Abraham implored him to pass not away from your servant, but wait while he attended to his guests. There's a little bit more to that, and we'll come to that in the Torah anthology commentary. Abraham's actions showed that hospitality to wayfarers is greater than receiving the divine presence. Abraham's departure from God was not disrespectful. However, because he knew that by hurrying to serve God's creatures, he was serving God himself. Beautiful explanation. The lavish service he rendered them illustrates the alacrity with which he served God. And alacrity is a word that can mean great enthusiasm, tremendous effort, enthusiasm, devotion. Verse 4, and wash your feet. At this point, Abraham did not know they were angels. He thought they were visiting Arabs who worshipped the dust of their feet, and he would not allow an object of idolatry to come into his house. Verse 5, a morsel of bread. From this understated, modest description of the sumptuous meal he was about to serve, the Talmud derives that the righteous say little and do much. Now, how true is that? You often come across people and you have no idea all the good things they've done. In fact, sometimes you don't find out some of those things until after that person has died. And you say, well, I never knew that. I had no idea about that. So, people who are righteous are often also very quiet about what they do. And of course, that's the correct thing to do. It's the correct way. One doesn't go around boasting about their accomplishments towards others, Now, here we go. Now, it continues on here. This is a continuation of, this is verse 5. From this understated, modest description of the sumptuous meal he was about to serve, the Talmud derives that the righteous say little and do much, which is what we've just discussed. It continues on, the phrase, do so. Do as you said. Give us nothing more than a morsel. This is what the angels had requested. As you said, let us but recline under the tree to refresh ourselves and be on our way. In order not to detain them, Abraham ran to Sarah's tent and asked her to hurry. Now, verse 6 has a lovely explanation. So Abraham specified that Sarah personally should knead the dough, for he wanted Sarah herself to perform the mitzvah of serving the guests. According to the Midrash, that this visit took place, it says here, on Passover, and Abraham and Sarah fulfilled the commandments before the Torah was given. Now, I won't go into detail there, but that is a well accepted explanation amongst Torah scholars. He wanted her to do it herself to guard against leavening of the dough, because if the dough is not kneaded quickly, it then becomes leavened. Now, verse 7. Then Abraham ran. Rambam emphasizes how he portrays Abraham's great desire to show hospitality. Though he had many servants eager to serve him, and he was old and weak from his circumcision, he ran personally to choose the animals for the meat. So obviously he was going to be picking out the prime beast, so to speak. Verse 8. First Abraham served the dairy items, for they required little preparation. Only after his guests had slakened their thirst and hunger did he bring out the full meal that consisted of calves' meat. And they ate, it says. Angels, now this is interesting too, and we'll discuss this. Angels do not eat in the human sense. They only appeared to eat. This teaches that one should not deviate from the local customs. In Kabbalistic sense, angels are spiritual beings, receive their sustenance from the holiness. So great, though, was Abraham that his sacred behaviour provided the angels with the nourishment that they required. Now that is really interesting, isn't it? Really interesting. So that is the end of the Torah explanation as such. So now I will go on to the Torah anthology, which again I will put a link in the description box below of the page number, etc. And this is from Torah Anthology Volume 2, and it will be commencing on page 166 and continues through to 175. I'm terribly sorry. We have a motor going in the background repairing the slasher, the grass slasher. I do hope it doesn't interrupt this video too much, but it's a job that needs doing for the farm, so please bear with me. Now, the Torah anthology, as I said, we will read some of the added things that are explained in it that just give us a little bit more clarity or understanding, a little bit, another layer. So we begin, of course, continuing with chapter 18, and this is verse 2. And it says, I'll just read the verse. He lifted his eyes, and behold, 3 men were standing over him. He saw them and ran from the door of the tent to greet them, and he bowed down to the earth. So that's the actual, I'm rereading the Torah verse. Now, some more explanation is needed here, and I just wanted to draw this out. God then sent 3 angels. They were Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. They had to come anyway, since they had messages for Abraham. But in order to give Abraham a chance to display hospitality, he sent them to his house in the form of human beings. So God had them appear as though they were ordinary people. Now, it goes on in verse 3, explanation. In Hebrew, the word Lord here is Adonai, the name usually reserved for God. As mentioned earlier, God had come to Abraham to pay a sick call. The divine presence was still in the house. So in this verse, Abraham took his leave of the divine presence in order to care for these guests. Continues on. Abraham noticed that these angels respected each other. Well, he wouldn't have realised they were angels at the time, but for the purpose of this explanation, we're saying what they were. Abraham noticed that these angels respected one another, so he knew they were not common people. Important people have respect for everyone, even those of lesser status. Small people, on the other hand, respect no one. Their pride does not let them assume that anyone is more important than they are. Do you know, this is one of the first lessons I remember my father teaching me or explaining to me. He used to say, everyone is important enough to speak to. It doesn't matter whether they're a multi-millionaire in a big house or whether they're the man that's picking up the collecting the garbage cans. It doesn't matter. They're all to be respected. They're all worthy. They're all human beings. And I even as a small child, I grasped that concept. And it's something that I wonder, do we ever teach children nowadays those things? So anyway, I digress a little there. Now, continuing on, it goes down and it says, we're on page 168 now. Abraham usually gave hospitality to any traveller, even a sinner. In many cases, through gentle persuasion, he would get them to change their ways. But now, while the divine presence was waiting in his tent, he did not want to leave to take care of sinners. He therefore determined that these travellers were good people before running to greet them. So he had that, he could see that they were good human beings. Good, you know, these angels were representative of good people. Now, we continue on now, verse 5, explanation from Torah anthology. Actually, Abraham bought them much more than a mere morsel of bread. But the righteous say little and do much. Now, Abraham meant to say, if I had known you were coming, I would have prepared you a great feast. But now, since you came suddenly and you are in a hurry to be on your way, I cannot do more. They said, do not bother yourself with any more. All we need is to refresh ourselves a little bit. And it goes on. And we're going on now with a little insight here in verse 6. And it says here that Abraham had said, although I have servants, these appear, he's talking about the three angels who he thought were three visitors. Although I have servants, these appear to be important people. Therefore, Sarah, I want you to do everything yourself. Remember, he asked Sarah to knead the dough. So Abraham knew whoever these three individuals were, they were important. Now verse 7, Abraham gave the calf to Ishmael so that he too would have a part in the good deed. This teaches that a parent must train his children to do good deeds, even when they are small. Then, when they come of age, they will be accustomed to doing good. So very true, so very true. Now, I'll just see whether I had something. Yes. Now, I'm just continuing on with a continuation of verse 8, another explanation here. Now, it says, the angels also made believe that they were eating. Now, this is interesting. They lifted morsels of food to their lips and then burned them in their hands. Since the food in their plates gradually disappeared, Abraham assumed that they were actually eating. This teaches that when a person is in a strange place, see, there's always an underlying message first, apart from just what the verse is saying and the explanation. So this teaches that when a person is in a strange place, he should abide by the local customs. One should never do anything unusual. Even the angels therefore acted as if they were eating. According to one opinion, the angels actually ate. They did so out of respect for Abraham. So there's two opinions to consider. God sent 3 angels rather than only one. Each angel had a different mission. Raphael had come to heal Abraham, who was suffering from the after effects of his circumcision. Michael had come to bring Sarah the good news that she would have a child. And Gabriel had come to destroy Sodom, as we shall see later in future verses and videos. Now, the 3 angels were needed because, this is also most interesting, one angel cannot perform 2 missions when they are contradictory. Each one must perform his own mission. In this case, one was a messenger of justice, while the other was a messenger of mercy. Amazing, isn't it? Just amazing. Continuing on again, verse 8, Torah anthology commentary. Although God himself had appeared to Abraham, he neither healed him nor announced that Sarah would have a child. God wanted to demonstrate that the only reason he visited Abraham was to honor him, not to do anything else. Furthermore, God wanted to teach the lesson that even an important person should visit a common man when he is sick. Again, it comes back to that. Everyone is important. Everyone is important. So what a beautiful explanation and extra layers we've learnt today from that. And I really enjoy being able to delve into those things, like, actually who were the angels. And it's interesting that they couldn't be multitasked. One angel couldn't be sent to do everything, that they all had a special task ordained by Hashem. So it's just so enriching to read some of those layers and give us more insight into an understanding into what those passages in the Torah say. They're action-packed. They certainly are. So I want to thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all those of you who have subscribed to my channel. And if you would like to share my videos, please, by all means, do so. Please continue to comment. And until next time, I want you to please take care and God bless you all.